Professor Emily Banks, welcome back to Scotland, and thank you for visiting Ash Scotland and taking time out of a busy and global schedule to do that. I'm interested to know what's happening with tobacco and nicotine control in Australia at the moment.
So we've had quite a number of reforms over the last few years in Australia, culminating in quite a few just in 2024. And those reforms cover tobacco products themselves and also electronic cigarettes and vapes and other emerging nicotine products. Some of the main things are really about harmonising the existing laws, making sure that things are brought up to date. So our old advertising bans didn't actually include social media, those kinds of things. But some of the stuff is actually novel as well. So one of the things that consumers will notice is that cigarettes now have a warning printed on the butt on individual cigarettes. Australia is the second country in the world to do that after Canada. There are also now health warnings or health inserts inside cigarette packets which talk about how to quit, but also the benefits of quitting. So it's another opportunity to get that message across. We're also having continuing increases in cost of cigarettes and ongoing, other measures that are in the World Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. What we are also having is with vaping and e-cigarettes that e-cigarettes are now only available through pharmacies. They're not available through any other outlets, and they're behind the counter. So the idea is to have a conversation about quitting, understand some of the options. The vapes are also in pharmaceutical-like packaging, so they're not allowed to be sort of bright colours or attractive to children. And they're in 3 main flavours: tobacco, mint and menthol. We're not having kind of all those other ones like mango, tutti frutti and unicorn dream. They're really much more standardised, and then we also have that those preparations behind the counter are nicotine concentrations of 20 milligrams per mil or less. So those are just some of the examples of the reforms, but what we do have is a much better kind of structural basis for going forward, including more ability to control the products themselves as well as the things around advertising and the health warnings.
It's really good to see Australia leading the way again on a global stage with strong measures. And can I ask what you are feeling encouraged by at the moment and what you're feeling is challenging?
Well, we really have to monitor very carefully what the impact of all of these changes are, because we've got a really long history and background of decreasing prevalence of particularly tobacco smoking. Our latest data from 2022-23 show 8.3% current daily smoking in the population aged 14 and over. So that's really terrific progress. And we know that progress is largely driven by those standard measures like price, bans on advertising, smoke-free spaces. We're looking forward to a more mass media actually in there. So it is encouraging, and it's particularly encouraging that we're seeing reducing smoking in our young people. So progress in tobacco control in Australia is increasingly driven by young people not taking up smoking. On the flip side, we have seen increasing use of e-cigarettes or vaping, and in fact, overall nicotine product use has actually been increasing in young people. We have had those measures brought in 2024, and there are some really positive early signs that we might be seeing that making inroads into young people using e-cigarettes. There's evidence that young people are saying they're harder to get hold of. We're hearing reports from schools that there's less disruption and confiscation of products. And we're also seeing some, sort of promising early population data, but we're going to have to keep watching that carefully. One of the other discouraging things is the increase in illicit trade in tobacco in Australia. So I know in the UK it's around 16% of the market. At the latest estimates is illicit trade, and on top of that there's also cross-border trade. In Australia, the latest data from the tax office is it's about 18% illicit trade, so it is a challenge we all face. Illicit tobacco control is part of tobacco control. We know that the industry also exploits it, so it's really part of the overall picture.
Can I ask you about the World Conference? Are you looking forward to it? What's special about it?
I just couldn't be more excited, and I know that sounds really geeky, but it's been 7 years since we had a global conference in tobacco control. and there's been so much happening. There's such a need for us to get together and really share experiences and also share what works and what doesn't. It really is a global issue, tobacco and tobacco control, and we have a huge diversity of incredibly talented people and organisations that are really going hard on it. We have seen really good international progress, not as quickly as we might like. It's still around 8 million deaths a year, which is a terrible, terrible toll. But it would be much higher if we didn't have tobacco control. So when I'm thinking about the World Congress, I'm thinking about the ability to share evidence from all of those different places and all of those different people. So when we're thinking about how do we tackle e-cigarettes, we've got people we can talk to from Brazil or Thailand or Singapore, other countries that have got quite strong measures. We're also thinking about when we're tackling illicit trade, we can talk to people in Canada, people in the UK, we can talk to people all around the world who've had to deal with those problems. There's a huge amount of innovation in tobacco control, but that's really about keeping pace with the innovation in the tobacco industry.
Thank you. And thinking about the fact that tobacco, as you said, is a global issue, and it manifests in so many different ways throughout the world, and the industry kind of plays countries off against each other. How would you see Ash Scotland's role and contribution in that?
I think the first thing that's really important is that we look at the evidence and the actual expertise and not the propaganda. So the tobacco industry is incredibly resourceful, it's got huge money behind it and power, and it spins stories about what's going on in different countries. So when I arrived here, people said, oh, I've heard about the terrible fire bombings and the terrible things that are happening. Yes, we do have illicit trade in tobacco. So, but it's not, we still have the majority of the trade is actually legal trade, and we have to think about the measures we can use. When I think about Ash Scotland, you can be actually gathering the evidence and really working with that evidence to inform society and to inform the community and to inform policymakers and politicians about really effective things to do. Public health is the ultimate team sport. What we're always wanting to do is to inform and empower the community to be able to take action. People out there don't want smoking in their communities. The vast majority of people who smoke wish they had never started. And it is still Scotland's #1 killer. So really, there's a huge role for Ash to play in supporting the community to really, oppose and resist tobacco. The other thing is that Ash Scotland has a really important role in learning from and linking with people internationally to learn from those experiences. By joining together as a community, we are much stronger in the face of the tobacco industry, but also we don't have to make the same mistakes other people have made. We can learn from the positives and the negatives. So Ash Scotland is in a position where politicians will say, well, did this measure work in Australia, or did this measure work in Thailand, or how are things going in Canada? Ash Scotland is able to connect effectively with all of that global community and take those learnings back to Scotland. Equally, Ash Scotland can share the things that have really worked in Scotland with the rest of the world.
Thank you, Professor Emily Banks. Again, many thanks. As always, it's been an inspirational and educational visit. Thank you.
It's been a complete pleasure, Sheila. In Australia, we would say, love your work.
Thank you.